Greetings, comrades. My name is DimAurora, and welcome back to From the Depths. And welcome to Lag City, because I'm an idiot and I'm trying to spawn all these things in at once. But as you can tell by the title, this is how Generation 8 is coming along. Right now, I only have the ships up and running, or I only have the ships on display. That I have quite a few aircraft and ground vehicles to do. But by the time I got through all these, my game is not happy with me, my computer is not happy with me, nothing is happy with me. But this is so far what we have for the Navy. Oh my dear Lord, I have done it now, guys. But from right to left, this is the order of production so far, mostly. This little guy right here, this little patrol, or river monitor, is a little bit later than the others, but I'll get to that as I go along. Now this one is the first ship of Generation 8. This is the Project 1 guard ship, PBM. That is a made-up classification, so don't go looking for other ships that have the PBM classification. You won't find much of anything. This little guy is designed to be fairly cheap. Sits at 8 or 14 grand, not 18 grand. It used to be 18 grand, but then it lost weight. So it's got a little 25 mil, and it's got a AA missile launcher in the back. Fairly cheap, very agile, and very stable gun platform. Honestly, this is the ship that made me really love Gen 8. Because I was like, yeah, I can do this. This thing looks great, and I still love it. It's still one of my favorite ships of the generation. And we have the Project 2 River Monitor. Now, I have two different classifications of River Monitor. I have this little guy here with a very shallow draught of 3 meters. And then I have these big boys over here, which are pretty much just armored warships. They sit at about 5 meters of draught, and they're much bigger, but they're much better defended and have much more powerful armament. I'll get to them in a minute. So these little guys are support ships. They're actually the cheapest ship I have. As you can see, we're running in degraded mode, yay. But these little guys will definitely see service. They have an automatic 57 mil stripped straight from a tank, which I will show later, and then a little 25 for some light air defense. These two are the Project 3s, this being the Project 3 that has lit up because I accidentally scrolled over the main gun, this being the Project 3U. I'm also very sorry about the frame rate of this episode. It's not just you guys, me too. It hit me hard. But this way we'll get through things faster. These two are built on the same hull. They're very fast ships, 30 meters a second. There are probably people who make faster, but these things are small, stable, and honestly relatively cheap at 11 grand per. The biggest issue being their missile systems and the patrol boat having two of these guns, which I've made not cheap. Normally they're only 200, but I made them 1,750 for balance reasons. So these are my little support ships. As you can see, one's a missile boat. So this is just a standard patrol boat. That's a patrol torpedo boat. Then we have the large torpedo boat. Those of you with keen eyes, or those of you without, who just know your stuff, will instantly recognize what this is based off of, but this is the Project 4 patrol boat. So, honestly, same armament as the Project 3, however, it's much larger, much more durable, much more stable, and it has 8-meter torpedoes instead of 5-meter torpedoes. So you get hit by one of these suckers, it's going to hurt a little bit more than getting hurt by a Project 3. This is the Project 5 YM, so Dredge. It's going to be my early slash mid resource ship. So you just slap one of these little guys down on a point. They're very cheap. Actually, I forgot to show the price and whatever of the Project 4. There we go. It's actually about the same speed as a Project 3 because it sits up on this hydrofoil right there, and it is nice. It's very stable. I love the Project 4. But back to the Project 5, as you can see, it is expandable. Default version has only 2 material gatherers, but you can have up to 8. That way I can extend it on bigger zones, and it's modeled after side chute dredge ships. And this was very hard to do this because my aesthetic did not have any ships of that design. Now these two, you could almost say they're sister ships, but they're really not. These are the oiler, or the oil lighter and the covered lighter. So, as you can probably tell by their name, this one here carries a lot of fuel, the YO Project 6, and sits at not very cheap, but that's because of all the fuel tanks in it. Carries 90,000 fuel. And this little guy here, the YF Project 7, is much cheaper and carries, I think, 100 and, yeah, about 80,000 material. So both of these are slow ships designed to transport between ports and whatnot. I will be doing this realistically. So to get material, they'll have to go between ports and whatnot, and ports have to have it on supply. It's going to be fun. Anyways, these are the Project 10s. This being the Project 10 standard, this being the Project 10E. These two are the heavy river monitors that I talked about. They are the exact same principle as the Project 2 over there. However, they are designed more for bombardment than, I guess, close-in support. So these have the twin A257 of Doom. If you have not seen the Gen 8 armament video, I recommend seeing that. Otherwise, none of this will really make sense what I'm saying. And the Project 10E only really differs from the A257 variant by replacing the front gun with some standard bombardment missiles. Then we have the Project 12. I skipped over Project 11 because this used to be the Project 11, but I changed my naming system, and yeah, it's a little confusing. But this is the Project 12, midget submarine, because I'm a weirdo like that. I love midget subs, they're fun. So this is the smallest little thing I could make. It has a single 8-meter torpedo. So if you get on this thing's bad side, it will hurt. It's extremely hard to detect, except if you have passive sonar, then haha, this thing lights up like a Christmas tree. It's extremely cheap, it's an ambush ship, so it may get a little bit of use out of me. All of these ships, all of these will be getting some use in a Gen 8 campaign. I will be doing a modified neater. So it's modified as giving more resources, so I will be able to actually produce this massive navy that I'm wanting. And thus that will also mean the enemy will have a ton more forces. So we're aiming for kind of, I guess, scary big battles instead of one-on-ones versus extremely dangerous things. So be on the lookout for that. Now these 3 right here, I just realized those 2 are almost touching because I fucked up. But these 3 right here are the destroyer escorts. This is the Project 13, the Project 13R, and the Project 13Y. Now, what that means, this is the DE standard model, this is the DER, radar picket ship, and this is the DEG, guided missile destroyer escort. That's fun to say. Now, these little guys are relatively cheap, they're only about 40,000 each. Actually, the standard model is the most expensive one because this one wipes the torpedoes. About 40,000 each. They're honestly very slow. They only go about 9 meters a second. But that's perfectly fine because these guys will be sitting in the back helping to escort others. You will see them operating usually with things like those two, the lighters, but sometimes, probably early game, they will be used on the front line, and this radar picket you will see in early warning systems. So it will probably get the most use out of all three, if I'm going to be honest. But these three will be some pretty decent workhorses of the Force. Now, I don't know what's going on here. I done fucked something up. But this guy's next. This is the Project 15 Corvette. It was 15, right? Should be 15. Yeah, it's the 15. So, 27 grand. Much faster than the destroyer escorts. Same purpose, same design, really. Just less armament and smaller, more compact. So this is also an escort ship, probably also an early game ship. It will be seen a lot of. I love Corvettes. They're fun. I love having Corvettes, as you can tell. The Pup class, the Pup 2 class, all the pups, they were fantastic. So I decided, hey, I need a Corvette. And thus a Corvette was made. Now, trying to figure out how I messed this up. You. You there, friend. You are not needed. Reduce some of the lag, please. Just add lag. I said add lag, didn't I? Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Anyways, these four, minus their duplicate now, are the destroyers. Now these will be the workhorses of the Navy. I love destroyers, as everyone can already probably tell by the Aurora, the Constellation, the Corona. All of those extremely powerful destroyers in the past have come and accumulated into these four. This is the standard Project 16 destroyer, DD. This is the DDR, Project 16R. This is the guided missile cruiser, or the guided missile destroyer, the Project 16U. And this is the Project 16Y destroyer mine layer. Each one has their individual quirks and purposes. They all feature very powerful armament for their size. They've got 130mm main cannons and then 57mm secondaries, as well as torpedo and 25mm armament to back them up. Now the major difference between these guys is of course the radar station. The Project 16U is the most modified of them all, featuring new missile guidance systems that I'm very happy with how they came out. An entirely redesigned stern, and featuring one of these bad boys, which I will go over when I get to helicopter, or aircraft in general, actually. And then the destroyer mine layer, of course, features additional rocket-assisted depth charges and your standard launch depth charges in the stern. So these four will be making a massive appearance. There will be destroyer fleets. There will be all those kinds of wonderful things. Now this one you should all be at least acquainted with. This is the Project 17 air defense ship that I used to design, or that I used as a basis for the Dim Does series. Do the thing. He doesn't talk well, but he do the thing. So this ship, the title says it all. It's designed specifically to target aircraft, so it has a very heavy and potent anti-aircraft system. I've actually changed up the missiles here to my standard new short-range anti-aircraft missiles, so they're a lot more agile, faster, whatnot, and they're fun. Now this one's the meme. Everyone's already going to meme it, I know. This is the Project 18 AGL buoy tender. So this boy is designed to maintain and operate my two little buoys. Let me actually spawn them in. They are part of the coastal defense. We have the MSB 4000 designed to gather materials. And then we have the RSB-1, which will get a lot more use. This is my early warning buoy. I'll actually spawn this in and use the built-in system here to try to find it. Holy Jesus. There we go. So this little guy provides extremely good detection to all nearby forces. This will usually be working with aircraft or extremely fast radar picket ships like my scout cruiser that will be built and whatnot. So it won't be all alone. Usually, sometimes they will get caught off guard and I will probably lose a few of these. But they're meant to quickly sink to the bottom of the ocean. They have a thick, heavy armor base there. So they'll sit on the bottom, they'll give extremely accurate sonar and radar detections with these radar buoys, and provide it to other ships. Also, they act as a floating barrier. So if I place these in a ring near the front line, they will attract the attention of incoming enemy forces. The incoming enemy force will attack these and then give me a blockade timer. So I will have 2 minutes to respond to something attacking one of these instead of randomly attacking a fleet that was not prepared for it. So these will work with mostly aircraft, honestly. I have a lot of high-speed aircraft that will be shown that are almost specifically designed to handle something like this. And my favorite part is, with the way I set this up, it kind of looks like it's actually holding it like they would in real life. So really, honestly, love the aesthetic of the buoy tender. Those of you who know ships might know what this is based on. All of these are based on something. I'm not very original. But this will actually see use for once. I will finally have a working buoy tender. This is the Project 19 AKL, so light cargo ship. It was a high-speed transport. This helicopter landing pad on the back is purely for decoration. I do not want it to have armament. If it does eventually get armament, I'll put something there. I say that as I look right at the 25 mil. That's for self-defense if necessary. So this guy right here is very fast compared to what my larger cargo ships will be. This will be able to transport between ports, and it carries, I think, 200,000 material. Buoy tenders having issues. So is this. Everything's having issues, apparently. But this will honestly get a lot of use, probably more use than the lighter over there. But that's perfectly fine. The lighter will be reserved for things that are not critical, so probably bases in the back that don't have much to do. This ugly bastard that is intentionally ugly is the Project 20 Light Seaplane Tender. This thing is well equipped to defend itself as it's meant to operate on the front lines. It would normally be carrying its complement of 4 seaplane attackers, but I deleted them because they took up too much space, and I only deleted them after I spawned this in and realized that was a dumb idea to have them out. So I originally wanted them to have, or to launch off these catapults that I set up. Again, this thing's ugly. Again, I meant it to be. But this may see some decent use. This will be in radar pickets and early warning stations, or just random Coast Guard stations. This will work mostly with Coast Guard aircraft. So the Project 20 will get some use. These two, everyone has most likely known. These are my children. Well, the Project 33 right here is my child, the Light Cruiser CL. This is the CLK Project 33K. So this is more designed specifically to hunt submarines. The major difference between the two being that the entire stern is removed. This isn't done. The Project 33K is not even close to complete. It's mostly just a test for right now to see how it looks. But these two are extremely potent vessels, especially the Project 33 standard model. I've loved this thing. I originally designed it for RLI, and I couldn't just put it to waste, so I modified it heavily, gave it new guns, gave it improved armaments, stretched it both ways, and redid the front of the superstructure, all to make this thing ready for Gen 8. And then I decided, hey, you want to hunt submarines with the cruiser? That's a thing they didn't realize, and then boom, put a flight deck on it. And this is an SH-1 submarine hunting helicopter. And then the one everyone has probably been wanting, I haven't made one in years, honestly, actual years. I haven't made a ship like this since the Alliance. This is the Project 48 battleship. This is a fat lard with automatic 406mm cannons. As you can see, the bow is stripped because I've tried and tried again to make it look nice, but I just can't. I hate how it looks every time. So this thing's honestly on hold specifically because of that. But it will be completed. Let me give an overview of the BGS-1 406 mils since I did not show these off. They were not prepared for the Gen 8 armaments build. So these are the main cannons. They're fun, they turn fast, they're meta. All things in Gen 8, the only meta things about them are the repair speed and the guns. And this is why. Because 22.5 rounds a minute on a triple 406 mil, that each shot rips a Marauder in half, is quite nice. So this thing will eventually get a superstructure. I wanted to finish the hull first. I started the superstructure for the front gun, but that's because or the second turret, just because I wanted to make sure it fit, and I put a very mock bridge for right now, just to make sure the height looked okay. So the Gen 8 Navy, the White Wolf Navy for Gen 8, is actually all prepared and ready to go. So I may start a season. Most of what you'll see will be up to the Project 20, you might see a Project 33, but I would really love to fill the gap between there. I do have a ton of ships planned. Like if I just go back into the Navy, you can see that I actually have every number. I have up to Project 60. The Project 60 is my highest ship. So I would like to finish out all these. All of them are just whole shapes right now. They're outlines at best, rough outlines. And then we'll move right along, honestly. Quick overview of these. The Project 8 is my small floating dry dock. I will only be allowed to build ships at dry docks or at critical repair stations. So there won't be many critical repair stations. There'll only be like 2. They'll be equipped with rescue helicopters. But most of the time I will be building with my dry docks. This being the light version here, holding a Project 1 in its old form. As you can see, old ass missiles, old ass main turret, not improved mast. I hate it. This is the medium with an early model, a very early model. I hate that superstructure. Destroyer escort. I completely redid the bow as well after this. So I look into the past as we're doing this. This is my large dry dock with 4 different destroyers in it, just showing capacity. And this is my advanced base section dock. Will only be able to build, or only this will be able to build the biggest things like the Project 48, the carriers, whatnot. Anything that is over the length of the large here. The large is, I think, 200 meters, but the section dock is 320 meters. And as you can see on the sides here probably, I have little extensions here. This will be a modular system. This is the main base of the modified Neater. I have replaced the main base to make it more like Dangerous Waters. So this will be what you start off with. I will have an oil rig, a refinery, defense modules, whatnot. They'll all be barges, but they'll be attached to the sides of this dry dock here. So look forward to that when Gen 8 season comes around. But without further ado, let's go to the Army and the Air Force. Alright everyone, this is so far the Air Force of Generation 8. As you can probably see, there are two different, or about three different color designs, with these two being the outlier. These two are the repair helicopters that I talked about before. I'm not really certain what to do with them, but that's the way they are right now. Let's start. All these are in alphabetical order, by the way, so that's why there's helicopters in the middle of everything and whatnot. And my naming system is horrible. Don't judge me. This right here is the AN-1 Naval Attacker, carrier-based attacker. So it's a quick little boy, sitting at 44 meters, or it's not the quickest, I should say, sitting at 44 meters a second. Moderately cheap, kind of a pain in the ass, but that's just because of its missile systems, which include a 4-meter or 3-meter anti-ship missile, and then 4 dual-purpose missiles on each wing. So I'm just going to let this guy go. Be free, my child. None of my aircraft are stable. It's kind of an intentional design flaw. That way they're harder to hit because I refuse to use shields or whatnot. So the in suffix, the second letter being in, means that it is designed for ship-based combat. This one will be launched from carriers. It's on mini carriers, in fact. So be prepared to see a lot of this squiggly bastard. This one is the AP1, P being land-based. So this guy here is a much more powerful version. It's quite faster, but it's more expensive. But it's got 5-meter anti-ship or anti-surface missiles. We're just gonna let you go, friend. Go off and probably dive into the water. Yep, because he tried to turn instantly. So a lot of these will be seeing service of some type. You are going to sit right there because you're a kamikaze.
Turning off.
But most of the land-based will only, again, as with ships, I'm being realistic, land-based only gets to operate from land airfields. Naval can operate from both. And then seaplanes, these two, can obviously only operate from sea. So this is the AS-1. I call it the flying fish because it is a flying fish. I did not intend for it to look that way, but it did. So I'm going to drop this guy in the water as I talk about it. Don't nose plant, please. That's exactly what I didn't want you to do. AP-1, I'm actually going to drop you. Your time is over. AN-1, or yes, AN-1, your time is also over. This is why I didn't want to drop you on your top, because your center of mass is a little weird. So these two are my coastal defense aircraft. They are perfectly designed to sit in the water and take off from it. This is the AS-1, being sea-based or water-based. This is the BS-1, so attacker and bomber. I'm creative, aren't I? But this little guy here has 3-meter dual-purpose missiles. They're actually the same missiles as the air defense ship, or actually all the ships have. But it's perfectly, it allows it to target any threat. It's a very agile little thing. The best part about it is it easily takes off from water. Very nearly killed itself there. Don't know why it wanted to climb like that, but it did. So this one right here, the BS1, all these are fairly cheap. None of them actually go over 10 grand, which is nice. This one is currently not operational due to a glitch in the game, where bombs cannot, or unguided, okay, guided bombs cannot be used by AI. This is all hooked up properly, but it will never drop these. These are 6 meter? I don't even know my own damn aircraft. No, they're 5. 5-meter guided bombs sitting in the engine bay, which allow this thing to effectively combat most threats. There's the AS-1 again, having grand old time, and it has a 25mm tail gun. I love this thing. This thing defies most logic. In the game, it is perfectly capable of taking off from the water, but it doesn't really like it, so I'm gonna let it do its own thing there real fast. So those two will operate with radar pickets. These are the mostly radar picket aircraft. The BS-1 is actually way faster than the AS-1, which is kind of fun, just because of the size of its fucking engines. This thing goes 80, this thing goes 50. So both of these you will see responding to threats. I will be piloting any bomber aircraft most likely, unless the glitch is fixed, because I can still drop the bombs when I need to. This right here is the CP-1, the cheapest of all my aircraft. It's a faster light transport than most of my ships. I can just let this thing go. I forgot to turn its AI on. I liked its design. I thought it was fun. It's not particularly fast because it's just prop powered. But there it goes. I will use that between airports. That will be the way I get supplies to inland facilities. I will have a few of those. So I'll probably have about 3 or 4 of those aircraft running transport duties unless I decide to do tanks to do that. This is the HH-1 command helicopter. I love this thing. It's actually not all too useful, but what it does is hover and provide extremely accurate target detection to neighboring ships. So it has a radar system, it has visual camera, gimbals. All of my helicopters are technically jet gyrodynes.
Taking control.
So that's my fault. I don't know how to do a helicopter that flies normally. So they're all jet gyrodynes that operate on contra-rotating propellers. Yay, I love contra-rotating propellers. And, of course, the jet at the back to provide forward thrust. This is the HP-1. This is my early warning aircraft. I don't know why it has this white stripe, but it does. This thing provides a range of 2.5 squares if it's at altitude. So I could sit it here and it would be able to see to the edge of this second square, which is roughly over here. So you will see a lot of this guy here. It's also cheap. It's actually cheaper than the CP-1. I take back what I said earlier.
Taking control.
And it's decently fast. It has an extremely high altitude just because of the way its propulsion is. If I let that guy go, he's actually going to go to pretty much the edge of space and sit there. It has turboprops, so it's mixed jet prop propulsion. I love the thing. This here is the IP-1 land-based interceptor. So this is my only 2-width aircraft. It is a twin-seat interceptor. The missiles are designed to be extremely fast, extremely agile, and moderately potent. Perfectly designed to hunt down things like flying squirrels and whatnot. So if I quickly turn this sucker on, it's gonna go zoom. So it goes up to 130 meters a second. It's actually moderately agile. Where did it go? There it goes. So it's gonna come back here. There's actually the HP-1 and the IP-1. So this thing's a goddamn rocket. It burns fuel very quickly. That's to be expected, honestly. But it does this job extremely well. This here, you saw a quick glimpse of it on the stern of the DDG-1. The Project 16U, let's just call it that. This is the KH-1 attack helicopter, roughly based on a few real-life helicopters mashed together. But this also has the 3-meter dual-purpose missiles. It's much faster than my other helicopters.
Taking control.
If I just let it go. Takes a little bit to get up to its speed, but it does go 30 kilometers an hour, or 30 meters a second, not kilometers an hour, different type of speed here. It's quite agile, it's very hard to hit because I made the rudder too tall intentionally. So you'll see this actually a fair amount. This will be on many helicopter carriers, or helicopter carrying ships and whatnot. The IP-1's going absolutely ham. And honestly, this will be the first generation where aircraft play a fairly major role in what I do. This here is the KP-1 land-based fighter. I did over-under missile wing aesthetic. I don't know why, but I did. This thing's not nearly as fast as the IP-1 wherever it is. It's around here somewhere. There it goes. But this is a much more, I guess, it has much more flight duration, it's much more agile, and its missiles are designed to not only really target ground-based or air-based stuff.
Taking control.
So if I let this guy go, you can see that it rockets up to 100 meters a second. However, its fuel burn is not nearly as intense, and it's much more agile, it turns much quicker. It's a little bit more stable than the IP-1 in some ways, but they all have their purpose. Now these two are repair helicopters, the RH-1 and the RH-2. This fat lard here
Taking control.
carries quite a bit of resource, but it takes forever to get up to its main speed, which is 17.8 meters a second, honestly. But this absolute unit is perfectly capable of amphibious takeoff and landing. It's not all too fast, but it carries a ton of material, so you'll probably see these two working together. This being the RH-2.
Taking control.
So these will either work off of repair ships that can carry helicopters, or just off of ports or emergency repair stations. You may not see all too much of them. They'll probably be out of play mostly, but they will still be around. This ugly bastard here is the SH-1, and the final aircraft that I have finished right now. There goes the AS-1 again. But this ugly bastard is perfectly designed to hunt submarines. It also suffers from the inability to manual or automatically drop its ordnance, so you'll probably see me flying around in these if I ever have a reason to hunt a submarine. Which there aren't really many in Neater, but hey, I can always give it a shot. So it has a sonar buoy that drops straight down, so it provides accurate detection to submarines. That's mostly what it's going to be used for, is hunting submarines that way by providing its sonar capacity. And then some guided depth charges, because why not? Why not have guided depth charges? Who doesn't want guided depth charges? So this was on the back of, or on the stern of the Project 33. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's also definitely not the worst. So all around us we have the Air Force of Generation 8. Next up, the Army. Alright, here is the relatively small Army of Generation 8. Now there will be a few more trucks. There will actually be 3 more precisely. So that's about all that will change from this. Aircraft will have about 5 more, and then ships there's a lot more, as you could see. But I never thought I'd revisit tanks. I genuinely didn't. After I had the issues with Ashes of the Empire and figured out that I absolutely loathed vehicles, I never thought I'd come back, but I decided for Gen 8, you know what, suck it up. Deal with tanks. So I did, and I got a lot better at them than I used to be. Except for the T-60, you wouldn't know that. So right off the bat, this is the M15. This is an amphibious lander designed to carry a small force of infantry. If I go into here, There are 6 seats. So this little guy is relatively cheap. All these are relatively cheap, even the main battle tank. But you will see this early game, I will actually use this to land forces. I will try to do amphibious operations as much as I can. I know there aren't that many opportunities to do so, but I will certainly try my best. So these little guys have a 25mm main cannon and a light ATGM. I had fun with these. I think they're cool. So this floats very well. When it's actually moving, it doesn't because of the way I had to put the propulsion systems and whatever. But if the waves aren't sucking it under, it does float just fine. I think most of these are amphibious. 3 out of 4 of my weaponized vehicles are amphibious though. This little guy right here is the S-260, light scout vehicle, and by light I mean 1000 resource. It's a box. I really couldn't get all too detailed without going overboard with mimics and making them not useful. But it's got a little 50 cal, it's got a bunch of seats in it. This thing's ready to go. It's ready to cruise, and it's ready to do some damage. So I don't know how much I'll honestly use any of these. Land-based combat on Neater is very, very limited. But as I said, I will certainly try the most, and if anything, these will be decorative guard vehicles or whatnot that will operate when I do have land-based stations. This fat lard right here is the S470 cargo truck. Carries about 30,000 material in it. It's not the fastest thing in the world. None of these are all too fast, because if they go too fast, they start to be stupid. So this is the S470H. It has a very similar role to the HH-1 helicopter. It provides high quality detection to vehicles that lack it. Most of these vehicles have one camera on them, and that's to make sure that they operate effectively enough. So this will work in groups with them. It will provide materials, it will provide ammo, whatnot. All that is based in there. So be prepared to see one of these if I do have land-based combat. This little guy right here is the T-20. It's moderately fast, it's amphibious, it's fun. I love this thing. It was actually my first tank of Gen 8's army, I guess. Now that I think about it, the T-60 was. But whatever. This thing was the first amphibious tank. So it's based off of a BMD. Probably could tell that. It's not all too hard. I'm not very creative when it comes to designs. I like the Russian Cold War aesthetic. That's what I went with. This little guy will be supporting the landings as well. This one right here is the T-30 medium light tank, or heavy light tank as I like to call it. It's still a light tank. It's amphibious, but it has an automatic 57 mil to go along with its ATGM. And it has thicker frontal armor to withstand a few more hits than they can. Now the fun thing about the T-30 is that it is perfectly amphibious. Let it settle down a bit, and it's honestly more stable in the water than a lot of my little patrol boats are. It's just that right now, since I'm in a multiplayer so I can keep them aloft, the waves are having a little bit of fun with it. Now this turret is the turret that was on the Project 2 monitor, river monitor. But I removed the ATGM, I changed up stuff. So it's a slightly different gun, same idea. And this chonk right here is the T-60, main battle tank. It's quite fast, it's very cheap for what it is, and it's beyond durable. Now this has a 125mm main gun that reloads every 3 seconds, that fires, I think, fires an AP cap. Okay, that's an old shell. I still haven't fixed that. But it pretty much uses the same type of shell that I would use on a 130 mil. If I quickly just give this a little pew, you can see that it's not all the worst cannon for how small it is. These cannons are absolutely tiny. I fit them into these turrets that can barely fit in the hole. They actually barely fit so much that the local weapon controller is exposed on all of them. But this is the minuscule army of Generation 8. This will probably see next to no service, which is sad because I built this thing decently. But anyways, guys, that is, in fact, all the time I have for this episode. I'm really sorry for how long this got. I did not think it would take this long to demonstrate just how big my military is getting. And what this episode serves as is an intro to Generation 8. There's already been an intro to Generation 8, but that was the wrong generation. That was Arli. This is Gen 8. And be prepared, there's a series coming soon to a DimAurora near you. But as for now, DimAurora signing off.